Get Rich Education is brought to you by Norada Real Estate Investments and Mid-South Home Buyers.
Welcome to Get Rich Education with Keith Weinhold, giving you information and ideas on the investment that has turned more ordinary people into millionaires and billionaires than anything else, and can provide you with more wealth and happiness than you ever thought possible. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, and educator, Keith Weinhold.
You're listening to Get Rich Education. This is episode 66. Welcome in. I'm your host, Keith Weinhold, and I'm back in my seat this week because I've got that drive to make you more successful than me, faster than me. With listeners now in 151 nations, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Android, Stitcher, Spreaker, SoundCloud, and at GetRichEducation.com. Have you wanted to invest in more passive income property, but you don't have the money for a down payment to buy all the property that you want? You know, I get that question from a lot of listeners. Most recently, listener Jason Kendall in Rancho Cucamonga, California. Basically, the question being, how do I get the down payment money faster in the first place? All right. I'm going to answer that later. California loves Get Rich Education as well, and I'm so grateful to have you. I mean, California is the most populous U.S. state, but even on a per capita basis, I see where my listeners come from, and every week I am just overwhelmed. So thank you, California. We're going to talk about some mindset and strategy for just that on the show today, so you can get that passive income sooner from turnkey real estate if you have that down payment in the first place sooner, okay? But first, playing a game worth winning, it means doing the right thing and then doing things right. Learn about something that matters, something that's going to have an impact on your life. What's that right thing? And that is real estate investing. It's something that can build massive passive income. I want to make you a successful real estate investor such that you have massive passive income, okay? Now, but we're not talking about that activity, okay, with emphasis on the word active, but rather passive, okay? Things like flipping property or wholesaling property, that's activity, okay? We're not focusing on that so much. Buy and hold real estate investing. Put yourself in a position where you're not the one replacing drywall pieces yourself, grinding it out every day, digging the hole every day, mowing the grass every day, picking up the phone every day. You're learning to multiply yourself so that other people are doing those things for you, okay? When you're smart, strategic, and educated, Get Rich Education educated, all right, you're effectively starting at the top. Now, the shortcoming with that is that in the beginning, all right, you might only be on top of 1, 2, 3, or 4 doors your first year of passive real estate investing. And you will grow fast, again, because you're multiplying the efforts of others, okay? Now what I'm talking about right there, that is called buying time. Okay, if you're not willing to buy time and you're only willing to sell time, well, then you can never get passive income, okay? I'm going to repeat that. That's really key. You want to buy time. If you're not willing to buy time and you're only willing to sell time, like you do at a job, well, then you can never get passive income, all right? Now, passive income, that's where you don't have to work for the income to show up. Now, passive, that word passive, it's kind of an interesting term, and, maybe it's even a mild misnomer, okay? I guess, how can I best say it? It doesn't mean completely uninvolved. You still want to read your income statement from your property manager every month. Read an article, at least once or twice a year about the geographic market that your passive real estate income is generated from, okay? And we hook you up with those specific opportunities right here where the property is already renovated, okay? So that's where someone else's active work was then leveraged and you hold that property for passive income. And when you buy strategically, you have a durable stream of income. My name is Keith Weinhold. Nope, I'm not a Hollywood name. No, I was not even born into a real estate family or a business family. And I was not born or raised anywhere near wealthy, okay? My mom was clipping 20-cent coupons for boxes of Cheerios, okay? I'm a real person just like you, all right? But you see, one thing I've done for you on this show that's different on my path to becoming a millionaire and beyond is that I've popped the trunk on my portfolio on this show a number of times for you. I'm showing you where I'm investing. I'm showing you how I've met the people that have accelerated my wealth building so that you can do it too. And you know what? As a regular listener to this show that actually acts, you're often investing right alongside me with what you act on. I want you to be successful just the same as me, okay? And, I've just used the term millionaire there a minute ago. Well, listeners know why I don't consider being a millionaire as even wealthy, in fact, okay? So in this show today, I'm going to compare passive income from real estate with how to earn passive income from other places, okay? Other places that have nothing to do with real estate. Because, really, life's a question you've always got to ask, compared to what? And be open-minded enough to measure why you favor something. For me, it's real estate versus other forms of passive income. You can get passive income without investing in real estate, okay? Well, sometimes when you view the same thing from a different perspective, you see something else that you didn't see before, even though that object is still the same thing. I saw the latest Star Wars movie, yes, the same one, 4 times in the theaters, okay? And yet I didn't quite see the same movie each time. And by the way, I didn't think I'd end up seeing it 4 times either. All right, but anyway, the first time I saw it, it was with my wife and a longtime friend near Philadelphia last month. The second time, I saw it with my parents in upstate Pennsylvania in the same theater, the same exact theater that I grew up watching those movies in with my parents. The third time I saw Star Wars in 3D. The fourth time I saw it in Anchorage, Alaska. Well, I sat next to a 9-year-old that was with our group, so I kind of got to see it through a kid's eyes somewhat when I did that. We'll look at passive real estate investing through a different lens today, just the same. Now, with relatively small efforts up front, you can leverage your knowledge into income that you don't have to work for. And, the problem is not the problem. The problem is, again, how most people think about the problem. You're different if you listen to this show, okay? Most people think that the problem is that they've got to spend less money. If I just spend less, my problems will be solved. No, that's not the problem. The problem is that people need to earn more money instead. What do the poor and the middle class do? Okay, you know how they see money? The poor and the middle class, they see money as a finite thing. Wealthy people do not. It's infinite to them. Poor people are often asking, why am I victimized? Why is the deck stacked against me? And you know what the wealthy people say at the same time? They're like, why in the world do those other people settle so easily? What you need to spend less time learning about is stuff like, I heard middle-class people talk about when I'm in the locker room at the gym, okay? They're breaking down the subtle nuance of the rewards point system with their airlines so that they can get their bags checked for free, maybe. Like, that's their aspirational thing, okay? So they're altering all these thoughts, behavior, their mental bandwidth so they can optimize airline rewards points just so they can maybe get an extra free check bag. I mean, geez. I'm not saying that you don't get any return there. It's just that the returns and the rewards are better when your time is allocated elsewhere, okay? And, here's another one. A more glaring example of the poor and the middle classes, I'll call it misallocated effort and mental bandwidth. Let's go check our car tires to make sure they're optimally inflated to the right pressure so that you get the best car gas mileage because maybe you'll save $5 a month, okay? I mean, look, proper car tire pressure is not going to create any wealth or bring meaning and fulfillment to your life. So instead, I implore people to wire their mind for wealth. Wire your mind for wealth. Most people correlate more income with more work. We correlate more income with being smarter and not working harder, okay? But you still lead with value, okay? First you produce and then you consume, all right? Most people, especially those people with children, they kind of end up having these conversations with themselves, these internal head games that conflict where one side of their brain constantly tugs at them and reminds them, I need to be at home with my kids more. All right, but the other side of their brain comes back and tells them, no, I need to be at work more so that I can provide for my kids, even though I know I'm never going to get that lost family time back. I'm justifying this. I'm at work earning money that I can use to make their lives better. So that's why I'm here. Yeah. I've convinced myself that that's why I'm here. Well, look, what if you do this instead? If you create value for the world by doing what we do here at GRE, Get Rich Education, providing other families with clean, safe, affordable rental housing, which is what I do, and my income is relatively passive, such that you can have both that income to improve the lives of your family and the free time to do those activities with your family. Rather than either or, you can have both. So that internal conflict inside your head, one side tugging against the other, is resolved. Okay, no wonder that conflict resolution results in more peace, love, happiness, joy, and freedom than you ever thought possible. So that's what we're doing here. So yes, this is an investing show, but ultimately it's a life improvement show because you don't ultimately want more money anyway. You don't really want more money. Green tinted bills of dead presidents. You just want what that money can buy, especially what you can do with the time that it buys you. So we're turning more nobodies into somebodies than anybody here. And we're not just why and what, but we're how. So, a person can think about getting wealthy, or they can think about getting by. You want to get wealthy, or do you want to get by? Well, as long as you're thinking, you might as well just think about getting wealthy, okay? Wire your mind for wealth. Let's look at how much the average American investor made last year. The average American investor that invests quite a bit in stocks, oftentimes a little bit in bonds, okay? And we know last year was not a great year for the stock market, okay? We're not necessarily picking on the stock market so much. This is just what the investor did last year. We know stocks are not the long-term path to wealth anyway. So, how did your portfolio perform last year? All you had to see was a 1% rise on the year in order to beat the S&P 500. That's it. S&P 500 ended last year down 0.7%. That snapped a 3-year winning streak, okay? Now, Visual Capitalist, visualcapitalist.com, they put together a chart and broke things down here by both profession and geographically on just how American investors did last year. Only 1/3 of investors made money on the year, and the average American lost 3.1%. And there are some notable regional differences in the data, okay? Maybe not surprisingly, given that it's the seat of Wall Street, the northeastern U.S. did the best over 2015 with an average decline of 1.7%. Yeah, that's the best. And maybe more interesting, the southeast did the poorest, okay? In general, investors, they kind of tend to invest in companies that have headquarters near where they live, okay? And that trend has also been true in the past, okay? So investors in the Northeast, for example, they're more heavily invested in financial companies than others. Investors in the West, they invested more in technology. And for investors in the South, it was energy. And oil saw what felt like an unending crash in 2015, and it took energy stocks along with it. Energy was, by a huge margin, the worst performing S&P sector. It ended the year down 22%. So that overexposure to energy companies in Southern investors' portfolios, that's the main reason that region saw an average decline of nearly 4%. So isn't that interesting? A lot of real estate investors are still kind of under this misnomer, this old way of thinking that they have to invest in their own local market. And they sure don't. They can surely invest out of market. That's where you get the best returns. If you live in California, it's investing in an Atlanta or an Indianapolis or a Philadelphia where you're in that sweet spot and you have those good RV ratios. So yeah, in general, investors tend to invest in companies that have headquarters near where they live with stocks. And let's just take a look at professions. This is just interesting for a second. Okay, so over the last year, teachers, they lost 1.5%. As an investor, especially those stock-based investors, especially with what we're talking about here. So teachers down 1.5%. They actually lost the least. Engineers down 2%. Techies down 2.1%. Consultants and doctors are down a little over 3%. Financiers, interestingly, down 4%. And those that did the worst were people that work in the energy field, energy professionals themselves, down 4.3%. Now, inflation is pretty tame right now with the CPI essentially registering as zero, okay, because energy prices are down. But I mean, come on, those are not inflation-adjusted numbers that I gave you. If you adjust those for inflation, those returns are even worse. And we do have inflation. I mean, come on, I don't believe that the CPI is really zero. I mean, how often do you see the prices really go down for things other than energy rather than up? I mean, just look at the cost for education, medical care, food. Costs continue to be up, up, up. So on an inflation-adjusted basis, all those returns are actually even worse. So, whether the stock market's up or the stock market's down like it was last year, whether that stock market's up or down, you know what? The income property rent check just keeps coming in. It just keeps rolling in. You know what else? When real estate market values are up or real estate market values are down, the rent checks keep coming in when you buy in the right market. It doesn't matter if the value of that real estate's down. You're not interested in selling it if it continues to cash flow better than ever and the rent check keeps coming in. Now, interestingly, Business Insider had a column about how wealthy people choose their friends. Let's talk for a minute about how wealthy people choose their friends. Now, I just want to state that I'm taking this next couple minutes directly from Business Insider, okay? If you're struggling to make ends meet or you're just not where you want to be financially, open your eyes and look around. In most cases, your net worth mirrors the level of your closest friends, okay? So you got to ask yourself, is it time to start looking for some new friends? Now, that very notion, that gets some people fired up and even angry. Now, that's not to suggest that you go around and unfriend all of your friends just because they don't have a lot of money. And I'm not suggesting that you choose your friends based on how much money they have. I mean, not at all. But like Einstein said, consciousness is contagious. If you want more money, you should consider spending time with and befriending people with more money. Exposure to people who are more successful than you, they've got the potential to expand your thinking and catapult your income. We become just like the people that we associate with. That's why winners are attracted to winners. Now, look, in other segments of society, this is accepted, but the rich, for whatever reason, they've always been lambasted for their predisposition to engage the company of people with similar financial success, and they shouldn't be, because the reality is the wealthy think differently from the middle class about money, and there's much to be gained by being in their presence. And you know what's even more surprising? A lot of the wealthy are surprisingly humble, and they just don't even view themselves as having arrived. Many of them believe that multimillionaires are simply people that don't know how to become billionaires. After all, why would someone settle for millions if they possess the awareness to earn billions? All right. That's why multimillionaires are always attempting to gain entry into a more exclusive group of people who are among the wealthiest in the world. The average person wants to go meet a millionaire to tell their friends they met a millionaire. Well, millionaires, on the other hand, they want to associate with billionaires to learn about how they think and who they're getting around. So one group is just watching the game and the other is playing the game. And the only question that matters is, which one of those two people are you? So just honestly ask yourself, how many wealthy people are in your inner circle of associates and advisors? What you can do is just go set a goal to double the amount of time you spend associating with people who are richer than you are. And doing so is probably the most likely way to make you rich. So the correlation between your friends and your level of wealth is one that's really taught improperly from the start, because most parents never teach their kids about the importance of making contacts, okay? They hope that their kids are popular. They hope that their kids make friends so that they enjoy their days in school. But wealthy parents, they have a different approach. I mean, sure, they want their children to enjoy their years growing up, but they also know that building contacts, even as early as high school, that makes the difference between a life of average success and one filled with enormous opportunity, all right? So while most parents are hoping that their kid becomes the quarterback of the football team or the most popular cheerleader, well, instead, the rich, they're concerned about building their child's social infrastructure for the future, okay? So the message of associating with the wealthy, that often sounds like snooty or elitist or even discriminatory against the middle class, but it's really not, okay? It's nice to say that everyone, regardless of financial status, has access to all the good things in life, but that's also naive and untrue. So whether it's right or wrong, wealth offers privileges, and one of the most fundamental ways to start the wealth-generating process is to get around wealthier people and watch how they think, and it's really an eye-opening experience. So the bottom line is that like attracts like. People with high-level formal education, those kind of people, they like to associate with the academic elite. If they have a lot of formal education, they want to be hanging out with people with their masters and doctorates. Physically fit people, they enjoy spending time with others who are physically fit. They want to be in a gym with some fit people because those ideas, those exercises, that rubs off on them, okay? Religious people, they want to have fellowship with people of faith. And rich people, they like to associate with others who are rich just the same. As Will Rogers said, man only learns in two ways. One by reading and the other by association with smarter people. Again, Will Rogers, he said a man only learns in two ways. Number one is by reading and the other is by association with smarter people. So you know how you want to associate with smarter people and you want to get them to like you? You want to be an influencer. You want wealthier people to like you and want to share things and ideas with you. And I want to tell you how simple this really is. And I think the first place that I learned this is a hugely important thing I'm going to say here. All right, and it's only 4 words. It's just 4 words you need to remember. I learned this from reading the classic Dale Carnegie book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I'm going to give you my top takeaway from that book, and it's going to save you 250 plus pages of reading, okay? And I just can't emphasize how important this is. In fact, when my top source of income was back from being an employee, just doing this one simple thing, remembering these 4 words that I learned from the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and it's so easy to remember, but most people don't do it. This was the way that I got promoted twice quickly, okay? It's simple, it's actionable, and I'm going to tell you about that when we come back. You're listening to Get Rich Education. Cash flow real estate investors nationwide and worldwide, this is Get Rich Education's Keith Weinhold. Forbes has rated Memphis, Tennessee as the #1 cash flowing market in the world. Our good friends at Mid-South Homebuyers have been Memphis's premier turnkey real estate provider for 14 years with a stellar reputation and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Owner Terry Kerr was born and raised in Memphis. Yeah, he knows the market and has renovated and sold over 1,000 houses in the Memphis area. Find out what their many repeat buyers already know. Their houses are completely renovated, even come with a 1-year builder's warranty and a lifelong rental guarantee. They're a perfect fit for the first-time out-of-state investor or the seasoned investor diversifying their portfolio. Mid-South Homebuyers' friendly staff makes investing easy. Learn more at midsouthhomebuyers.com or give them a call at 901-217-HOME.
Are you having a hard time finding great investment properties? Unfortunately, the best deals are rarely found locally. Successful investing begins with the right properties in the right markets. Norada Real Estate provides everything you need to invest in the best deals across the U.S. Our simple, proven system will help you create real wealth and passive monthly cash flow. Get your free copy of the ultimate guide to passive real estate investing at noradarealestate.com/guide. That's NORADA realestate.com/guide.
Hi, this is Russell Gray, co-host of the Real Estate Guys radio show, and you're listening to Get Rich Education with Keith Weinhold. Don't quit your daydream.
Welcome back to Get Rich Education. On an upcoming show, we're going to discuss the Atlanta real estate market with a great guest that really, really knows the ATL. I don't know if anyone from outside Atlanta or inside Atlanta calls Atlanta the ATL, but I just did. Maybe I'll ask my guest that. Anyway, Atlanta has been a market that's had investor advantage rent-to-value ratios, okay, where that ratio of monthly rent income to overall purchase price has been 1% or better in a lot of Atlanta single-family home rentals. But one problem is Atlanta has seen a price run-up, just like a lot of U.S. markets have, such that that rent-to-value ratio has become challenged, okay, and now you're paying more in purchase price where the rent income does not keep up proportionally with that higher purchase price. And it's really been what's happening across the U.S. since 2011 or so, depending on your market, okay? So where 5 years ago you might have bought an $80,000 single-family home income property with an $800 rent income on that $80K purchase price, well, there's that favorable 1% RV ratio. But today, that same home, that might sell for $120,000, but yet the rent income is only up to $900. Well, that's only a 0.75 rent-to-value ratio, and it likely no longer makes sense for you as a new investor. But we're going to find out exactly to what extent this has occurred to in Atlanta and how you can compare and contrast Atlanta with other markets that you're thinking about buying in. So the classic book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, that shows you the 6 ways how to make people like you, the 12 ways to win people to your way of thinking, the 9 ways to change people without arousing resentment. That book, it's one of the first ever best-selling self-help books, and it has sold almost 20 million copies now. Did you know it was published in 1936? Yes, 1936. Okay, the number one takeaway that I got from that book that's going to save you 250 to 300 pages of reading is simply this. Ask others about themselves. Yeah, that's it. Above all, remember those, 4 words? Yeah, 4 words. Ask others about themselves. People enjoy talking about themselves to you, and they enjoy that so much that they're going to like you and they're going to remember you. So in the classic book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, the 6 ways to make people like you. Okay, number 1, become genuinely interested in other people. Number 2 is smile. Number 3, remember that a person's name is, to that person, that is the sweetest and most important sound in any language. Number 4, be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about, again, themselves. The 5th way to make people like you is talk in terms of the other person's interest, okay? Again, themselves. And number 6 is make the other person feel important and, do it in a sincere way. This isn't any sort of faux or fake way, okay? Those are the 6 ways to make people like you. Well, you know what that person is going to think and say after an interaction like that with you when you keep those things in mind? When I keep those things in mind, they're saying, wow, what a great conversationalist. My gosh, I'd love to have a guy like that in my network. What a nice person, and he really cares about me. And you really do, okay? It's not fake caring about a person, it's real. And you know what? In a conversation, if you're thinking about how much you're talking about yourself versus how much the other person's talking about themselves, and you think it's kind of 50-50, 50% them and 50% you, well, it's so easy to talk about yourself that it's probably not 50-50. So if you think it is, you might want to ask the other person more about themselves. Because if it feels like 50-50, you're probably talking about yourself too much. All right, now, I had an early boss in my employee career named Jack. For example, outside of work, Jack loved golf. Okay, I'm not a golfer, although I'm interested in taking lessons someday. But anyway, I know sports pretty well. I know them well enough so that I could ask Jack enough introspective questions. My boss, Jack, I could ask him about his golf game that after a while, I could tell that he liked it when I visited his office. Because Jack knew he was going to get a mental break from work because he knew he was going to get to visualize his golf passion while we sat there in his office. So I asked questions because I listened, and I knew that Jack, my boss at the time, he was an influencer. Well, later, he offered me a promotion that I accepted, and it was the best paying employee job that I ever had in my life. He could have offered that position to others that were equally as intelligent as I, equally hardworking as I. But, Jack, he wanted to promote me to help ensure that I stick around because basically I think I made him feel good about himself. But I did genuinely enjoy talking to Jack about his golf game because I like seeing a person light up and see them kind of get that starry-eyed sparkle in their eye when they were stone cold bored just 5 minutes earlier, okay? And that makes me feel good too. When Warren Buffett was 20 years old, he took the Dale Carnegie course, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And to this day, he has the diploma in his office, okay? So the message here is ask others about themselves. That's the message. That can really take you far. And I like these kind of brief, easy to remember messages when it comes to self-help or anything else. So I'm distilling a 250-page book right down to 4 words. Ask other people about themselves. With diet, by the way, my favorite one is avoid processed food. Best concise diet advice I can give you. Avoid processed food. With exercise, it's minimize equipment used, okay? With networking, it's ask others about themselves. It's going to do a lot for your success. That's a great thing for you to practice and remember as you network with others as we go into next month's Investor Summit at Sea, departing Miami, which you can find out about on our events page at getricheducation.com. I'm going to be there. And, by the way, I'm paying probably between $9,000 and $10,000 to be on that cruise, just like everyone else is paying to be there. And I'm doing it largely to network with people and just have a great time building friendships, even though I'm a quieter guy. When you're a quiet guy, it's easy to ask someone about themselves. They want to talk about themselves, and they do all the talking. It's been said that your net work determines your net worth. That's more than just a cute little saying, okay? It's reality. Your net work determines your net worth. A few years ago, I thought that it sounded ridiculous to spend $25,000 per year to belong to these real estate mastermind networking groups. But now I'm kind of more closely considering doing it because I've learned that every real estate industry event I've ever attended, you know what? That event, it had a tuition or an admission price that was actually lower than the value that I received from being involved with it. Now, that's partly because I feel like I act on the right information. You can certainly overpay for an event if you don't act on the information. I mean, this is how I ultimately create the value for myself and others by attending events like this. Okay, you know what happens when you do the opposite? All right, now what do you hear when you get around broke people instead of successful people? Here are some signs that you might be hanging around some broke people or some toxic mindsets, okay? When people say things like, I don't need money. You know what? The deck is stacked against us. I don't agree with all that. I think it's all a freaking scam. Money won't make you happy. Look, these people, they've already quit. Okay, they're so far gone that they're not coming back. They're contaminated, but just because they quit, it doesn't mean that you need to. Now, if you want to build passive income, how do you get the money to invest in the first place if you don't have any to begin with? All right, so you can plant that passive income seed as a down payment in property to try to get your equity snowball rolling, get your cash flow coming in, get that passive income that you don't have to work for. Some big themes here, what I say is this: don't add a part-time job, all right? Yeah, that's right. In most cases, don't add a part-time job. What I'd say is instead, get really good at one thing, all right? Get really good at one thing and then expand your influence in that space. And we've been talking about how to do that today. So get good at something. Until you get good in one niche, you aren't getting rich. You need to learn how to expand your space and control more around you, okay? You do that when you get good at something. After you're doing that in your immediate space and you've got more income and you begin adding rental properties around the country at the same time that are expanding you remotely now, that's when you really begin to generate wealth. Another important thing I would say is set up your life so that you have a short commute to your workplace. That's really quite important, and a lot of people underestimate that. I know that you can make that commute time close to a time-neutral experience so that you feel like you're not losing time, okay? Like a lot of you listen to Get Rich Education on your commute. But, if your most important investor metric is your ROTI, your return on time invested, well, over time, you're spending a lot of suboptimal time on your commute. Okay, like if you just move 10 minutes closer to your workplace, you basically double that time since you're round tripping. And now you've just rescued 20 minutes of time every day. Okay, I mean, that's about 2 hours a week that you can now optimize. Okay, so passive income can come from a number of places other than income real estate. Okay, you can make it in ways other than with income real estate. But let's talk about what some of those other ways are and then why we focus on income real estate. I mean, number one is patent royalties. I don't invent anything. I mean, that takes a creative, rare person, but you can get passive income through patent royalties. What about trademark licensing? Okay, I mean, that's something that's not easy to get. You've got royalties from books, songs, publications, okay? The chances from getting great passive income from those are very tiny from books, songs, and publications. Creating popular original works of art like Picasso, Da Vinci, Andy Warhol, extremely difficult to do, even if you're immensely talented. How about profits from businesses in which you have no day-to-day responsibility or role? Okay, that's one way, although it takes a tremendous amount of inertia to get that going first. Earnings from internet advertisements or blogs or websites. Okay, I mean, that's kind of the same way. It takes a lot of inertia to get that going, but that all needs constant maintenance and updating from somebody as well. Another way to get passive income is dividends from stocks, REITs, equities, or mutual funds. I mean, boy, you've got to be kidding me. And the yields on those are so low that you'd need to invest somewhere north of $5 million plus there to make those yields worthwhile. Okay, so kind of through attrition, real estate investing, that is a proven long-term wealth builder of passive income where so little education is needed. And I'm here to give you that every week. So there's nothing wrong with being wealthy. The wealthy give more than anyone else. The wealthy create jobs for others. But, maybe that's not what you heard when you grew up. All right. I mean, think about your influences with how you thought about wealth when you grew up. Okay. What did your mother and father, what did your parents tell you when they calibrated your mental and ethical compass growing up? Okay. They probably said, don't do drugs. All right. Mine sure did. They said, don't drink. All right. Don't mistreat people. They might have said, treat others with respect. To have a friend, you've got to be a friend. All right. Don't steal. They probably said that. But one thing that your parents never told you growing up? Don't be broke. Why didn't they say don't be broke? It's just because people don't talk about money. We've advanced that conversation. We're adults now. We can talk about this. Don't be broke, all right? And, I've got one more vitally important thing to tell you today. And by the way, I'm not even sure what title I'm going to give this episode. Today's topic was less specifically oriented than most every episode as we kind of jumped around here somewhat. I think Wire Your Mind for Wealth is what I'm going to make sure it's titled this week, as we've kind of had a mindset refresher here. We'll see what I name it, but in any case, I'm here to make you more successful than me, faster than me. I've got to tell you that last week, our Get Rich Education newsletter subscribers were sent a link and got exclusive access and a private buying opportunity through a webinar that was held just 3 days ago. That was a webinar to buy cash flowing turnkey single family homes, and this time it was in investor advantaged Indianapolis, Indiana. Many of those Get Rich Education listeners that received that opportunity are acting, and they're grateful that they did because they are in. Okay, they're in relatively early, and they're able to build passive income in their lives without having too much competition from others on these private buying opportunities. You can still get in relatively early yourself. There's just really no upside to waiting at all. You can get free private access for yourself as well. All you have to do is go to getricheducation.com, look down the right side of our homepage, and subscribe to the newsletter for free right there. You know how we are here at Get Rich Education. Of course, we wouldn't share your email address with others. There's no spam. Unsubscribe at any time. That's the free newsletter at getricheducation.com. I'm your host, Keith Weinhold. Happy investing. This week, you might quit your day job, but don't quit your daydream.
You've been listening to Get Rich Education, telling you what the wealthy won't tell you about real estate and investing. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to visit iTunes and leave your comments.
Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice. Opinions of guests are their own. Information is not guaranteed. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. The host is operating on behalf of Get Rich Education, LLC exclusively.